Hey everyone, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss this incredible story about grit, determination, and finally getting the recognition you deserve. Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Grayson Manufacturing's corner office. The kind of relentless drizzle that made the streets outside shimmer, reflecting the city lights in long, wavering streaks that I sat across from Martin Grayson, CEO's son, as he slid my promotion request across the polished oak desk like it was a ticking time bomb. 8 years. 8 long years of 60-hour work weeks, missed birthdays, and every weekend spent troubleshooting equipment instead of being with my son, Ethan. And now my career ambitions reduced to a single sheet of paper, dismissed before he even glanced at the details. I appreciate your dedication, Harper, Martin said, brushing a stack of financial reports aside. But I don't think you're ready for executive management. Maybe in a year or two, once you've developed broader perspectives. Broader perspectives? The man was barely 30. I'd been running the production floor longer than he'd been at college. My jaw tightened. 20 years in the Navy taught you control, even when the injustice is raw, even when you've built the foundation and someone else takes credit. I understand, I said evenly, keeping my tone neutral. The words were steel wrapped in calm, but inside, something had shifted. I gathered my things and left the office, the echo of my footsteps on the tile hallway loud in my ears. My name is Jackson Harper, 45, operations manager at Grayson Manufacturing. Reliable, silent, effective. The guy who kept $20 million worth of contracts running smoothly, while the world outside took all the applause. 8 years ago, after my Navy service, my life collapsed. My wife, Laura, passed away after a long illness. My daughter, Ethan, was only 10. I needed stability, a job that allowed me to be present, a predictable schedule. I took Grayson Manufacturing because it promised security, not recognition. In those first months, I rebuilt a chaotic production system from scratch. Manuals, procedures, safety checks, all coded with the precision and discipline I learned underwater, where a single mistake meant death. And now, all that expertise ignored. The next morning, I arrived not at 6:30 like always, but exactly 8 a.m. No early rounds, no emergency fixes, no heroic saves. Just me, at my desk, handling only what was officially mine. Colleagues were confused. Machines faltered. The first phone call came at 9:15. Jackson, the press on line 3 is acting up, said Wesley, the lead machinist, eyes wide. I filed a maintenance request, I said calmly, barely glancing up. Follow protocol. Silence. Confusion. Panic. By evening, I was home at 5:45. Ethan looked up from his homework. Dad, you're actually home? Yeah, I said. And for the first time in years, I stayed. We talked about school, baseball, life. His smile, the real one, hit harder than any work victory I'd ever had. For the first time, I realized something. My time, my attention, and my life were mine to control. And for the first time, I was going to act like it. The morning after my quiet rebellion, Grayson Manufacturing was different. Normally, the plant hummed with synchronized precision, machines whirring in perfect rhythm, operators moving like clockwork, every problem caught before it became a crisis. But today it felt like a storm had passed and left chaos in its wake. That I walked in at 8 a.m. sharp, straight to my desk. No rounds, no floor inspection, no heroic fixes. Just me, sipping coffee, opening emails, and scanning reports. Within 30 minutes, Wesley appeared at my side, eyes wide, shoulders tense. Jackson, the line 3 hydraulic press is grinding. Bearings are overheating. It's never done this before. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch. I filed a maintenance request. Follow the procedure. His jaw dropped. You're serious? I nodded. Calm. Controlled. The words carried a weight they hadn't felt in years. Follow the protocol. Don't bypass steps. Everything you need is in the manual I wrote. He stared at me, disbelief etched across his face. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. This wasn't Harper, the guy who dropped everything to save production lines. This was different. This was me taking control. By 10 a.m., the press was still idle. Operators were whispering, walking past my desk with curious glances. The office was alive with subtle panic. Emails pinging, phones ringing, managers walking in frantic loops. Even Martin Grayson was pacing behind his glass office wall, his tie loosened, hair mussed, trying to manage a situation he had never had to handle without me. And that's when the first real test hit. A call from Colonel Daniels, head of the primary client's technical team. Harper, we ran the emergency hydraulic simulation overnight. Line 3 failed 3 times. Are you aware of this? Yes, sir, I said, calm but firm. The maintenance request is in place. My team will follow procedures exactly. The manual includes troubleshooting for this scenario. Step by step. Nothing is being skipped. There was a pause on the other end. Then, a gruff chuckle. Good. Follow through and update me when complete. I trust your judgment. Clicked out. I put down the phone and took a slow breath. For the first time in 8 years, the client's emergency wasn't resting on me alone. Procedures, delegation, accountability, it was all in motion. The rest of the morning passed in a surreal blur. Emails demanding instant fixes, supervisors stopping by asking questions only I knew the answers to, engineers hesitating at decisions they would normally defer to me. I watched it all, occasionally nudging a process along, but mostly resisting the old reflex to fix everything immediately. At lunch, I stepped outside for the first time in months. The sun cut through the clouds in thin, golden streaks, warming the chilly wind. For a moment, I closed my eyes and remembered why I started all this, why I left the Navy, why I accepted this grueling corporate life. Ethan, my daughter, my responsibility. That I returned to my desk with a renewed sense of purpose. By mid-afternoon, the maintenance team arrived. Jerry, a skilled electrician, looked nervous. Jackson, this press, it's complicated. I've never handled the bearings and pressure calibrations you implemented. I smiled, the kind of small, knowing smile that carried years of experience. Jerry, all instructions are in the manual. Follow every step. That's all you need to do. Nothing more. Nothing less. He hesitated, then nodded, opening the thick binder I had meticulously prepared 3 years ago. Photos, diagrams, troubleshooting steps, every eventuality accounted for. By 5 p.m., the press was operational again. Not because I had fixed it personally, but because the system I built was designed to survive without me intervening at every turn. I packed my things and left, on time. Driving home, I called my sister, Megan, to cancel our spring break cabin trip with Ethan. Something's changing at work, I told her. Might need the vacation days for other priorities. At home, Ethan looked up from his homework, genuinely surprised. Dad, you're here early? I smiled. Yeah, I'm here. We talked about his school, his baseball practice, his college dreams. I listened instead of working, laughed at his jokes, and shared stories I hadn't told him in years. For the first time in a long while, he felt my presence fully. Later that evening, my phone buzzed 17 times with missed calls. The press at Grayson had required adjustments during testing. The compliance report for the client's contract was incomplete. But for the first time, I wasn't panicking. I had delegated, documented, and empowered others. The system could survive without me being omnipresent. That night, as I went to bed, I realized something. I had reclaimed my time, my life, and my authority. And in doing so, I had sparked the first cracks in the facade of control that management had always relied upon me to maintain. Tomorrow, I thought, would be the real test. And I was ready. The next morning, I arrived at Grayson Manufacturing at 8 a.m. sharp. Not a minute early, not a minute late. Exactly 8:00 at the moment I stepped onto the plant floor, I could feel it. Something was off. The usual hum of machinery was punctuated by anxious whispers, rushed footsteps, and the low, frustrated murmur of supervisors trying to coordinate without me. I stopped at my desk, setting down my coffee, taking a slow breath, and just watched. Then Wesley appeared. His face was pale, eyes darting around like a man caught in a storm. Jackson, line 3. It's failing again. And now line 5 is showing pressure inconsistencies. We don't know what to do. I let the silence stretch, long enough for the tension to hang in the air. His shoulders tightened. The usual confidence he had on the floor had vanished. Have you checked the manuals? I asked quietly, leaning back in my chair, eyes calm. He blinked. Yes, but the sequence, it's complicated. I don't fully. I raised a hand. Then follow it, step by step. No shortcuts, no improvising. The panic in the room was palpable. Machines groaned. Alarms chimed softly in the background. Supervisors hustled past, unsure who was truly in charge. Even Martin Grayson was pacing behind his glass office wall, phone pressed to his ear, voice raised in frustration. But for once, I didn't feel the need to intervene immediately. A sudden chime interrupted the chaos. A video call from Colonel Daniels. I picked up. Harper, line 3 just failed during the emergency test. The pressure differential caused the bearing assembly to overheat. Are you aware? Yes, sir. I replied, voice calm, steady. We are following procedures. Maintenance has the step-by-step manual. The team is adhering strictly to the protocol. I will provide updates as they complete each stage. There was a pause, long enough for the gravity to sink in. Good, the colonel said finally. Do not skip a single step. Keep me informed. Click. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight of responsibility settle where it belonged. On the system, not solely on me. By mid-morning, the first cracks in Martin Grayson's composure became obvious. His tie was loose, his face flushed with frustration. He strode to my desk, a stack of papers clutched in his hands. Jackson, this isn't acceptable, he said, voice tight. The client is calling, my father is asking questions. We need solutions now. How are we still behind? I looked at him calmly, voice soft but firm. Martin, the procedures are in place. I am not bypassing protocol to cover for gaps that exist because the system has depended on me for too long. It's time others follow the process. His jaw tightened. You're choosing not to fix it? I paused. Carefully. The words carried years of suppressed frustration, discipline, and truth. I am allowing the system and the team to function as designed. That's all. His face went pale, a mixture of fear and disbelief. He had never faced this kind of resistance from me. Never. Then the first email alert popped up, a critical error in line 5. Wesley ran over, flustered. Jackson, we can't figure out the override on the pressure release. The bearings. I raised a hand, cutting him off. Chapter 7 of the manual. Section 7.3. Follow it exactly. No shortcuts. He stared at me, almost like I had spoken in a foreign language. Hours passed. The team worked methodically, following the guides I had painstakingly created. Alarms stopped, machines stabilized, and slowly, chaos turned into controlled motion. By 2 p.m., the emergency was contained. The pressure readings normalized, the bearings cooled, and the client's specifications were fully addressed. The panic in the plant had transformed into quiet awe, whispered appreciation, nervous glances, and tentative smiles. Martin Grayson appeared again, shoulders slumped, hands fidgeting. Jackson, I. I held up a finger. Let it sink in, Martin. This is the result of structure, documentation, and discipline. Not heroics. Not intervention. Discipline. He exhaled, frustration giving way to reluctant respect. I. I see that now. Even as the adrenaline faded, I felt a deeper, more profound satisfaction. Not from the success of fixing the crisis, but from reclaiming control of my time, my skills, and my life. That evening, I walked in at 5:45 p.m., the earliest I'd been home in years. Ethan looked up from his homework, a grin spreading across his face. Dad, you're actually here. For real. I smiled. For real. We talked for hours. About baseball, college life. He laughed. I listened. For the first time in years, family came before work, and it felt better than any promotion, any bonus, any recognition from a boss who never understood my value. As I turned off my phone that night, I realized something. Something powerful. The system I built could survive without me being a martyr. I had shifted the balance, and for the first time, I felt free. And yet, I knew the final confrontation was coming. Martin Grayson couldn't ignore this. His father wouldn't ignore it. And soon, I'd have to decide what I was truly willing to fight for. Monday morning arrived like a storm. Sharp, cold, and unavoidable that I pulled into the Grayson Manufacturing parking lot at 7 a.m., my choice this time. The early morning fog clung to the lot, curling around the headlights of arriving cars. A day of reckoning was ahead, not just for me, but for the people who had underestimated my worth for far too long. I walked into the office, calm, measured, and went straight to Martin Grayson's father's office. William Grayson, CEO, sat behind the massive mahogany desk, papers strewn but eyes clear and focused. "Good morning, Jackson," he said. His voice carried authority, tempered with respect. "I understand you've had quite a weekend." I nodded, pausing briefly, letting the weight of my actions hang in the air. "Yes, sir. And I've had time to consider what's important. For the company, and for my family." He leaned back, studying me carefully. "I hear you've also had a conversation with Lockheed's Defense Division?" "Yes, sir," I said. "They've offered me a senior engineering position, substantial salary, full leadership responsibilities." He paused, letting the news settle. "And yet, you came here first." "Yes," I replied, my voice steady, but my chest tight. Because this moment, this decision, carried the weight of years of being overlooked, undervalued, invisible. William Grayson's gaze sharpened. "Tell me, what would it take to keep you here? Not just as an employee, but as a leader, respected for your contributions." I let the silence stretch, long enough for the gravity to sink in. Recognition, respect, the authority to implement systems properly, rather than just maintaining broken ones. Compensation that reflects my true value, and a clear path to lead the technical operations I've spent years mastering. He smiled faintly, a mix of relief and admiration. "Then consider it done. We are creating a new position, Director of Technical Operations, reporting directly to me. $140,000 base salary, performance bonuses, 2 days remote flexibility, and full authority over production protocols, safety systems, and operational improvements. The job is yours if you want it." I felt a rush, like a weight lifting from my shoulders. Nearly double my current salary, recognition, respect, authority. Enough to secure Ethan's college tuition, yes, but more importantly, enough to reclaim my professional dignity. "I'll accept," I said, pausing, to ensure the sincerity was clear. "With one condition. Martin Grayson keeps his position." Replacing him doesn't fix systemic issues, and this isn't about revenge. It's about building something better. William nodded, clearly impressed. Unexpected and wise. Agreed. The next weeks were transformative. My new role allowed me to finally reshape operations without interference. A brilliant production engineer, previously trapped in quality control, joined my team. A veteran supervisor who understood workflow better than anyone was promoted to oversee operations. Together, we streamlined production across all lines, cutting overtime costs by 35% while increasing output quality. The Patterson contract expanded to include hydraulic systems for 3 additional vehicle types. Colonel Daniels personally called William to commend our operational excellence. And for the first time, Martin and I developed a working relationship built on mutual respect. He handled client presentations and corporate strategy, while I ran the technical side flawlessly. Even my home life flourished. I walked out of the plant every Friday at 5 p.m. sharp. Ethan was waiting, baseball glove in hand, homework spread across the kitchen table. "How did it go, Dad?" he asked, eyes shining. "Good," I replied, smiling. "Very good." We launched a mentorship program at the plant, giving 15 experienced workers a clear path to supervisory roles. Talent was finally recognized. Experience was finally respected. And as I watched Ethan practice, throwing and catching with the patience I had taught him, I realized the most important lesson had finally come full circle. Sometimes, the most powerful response to being underestimated isn't proving people wrong. It's creating a world where skill, experience, and integrity can't be ignored anymore. That I glanced at the hydraulic manuals on my desk, at the neatly organized work orders, at the production lines running smoother than ever. And I knew this was exactly where I was meant to be. The storm of doubt, the frustration, the endless hours of being invisible. All of it had led to this moment of clarity, of respect, of balance. And for the first time in years, I went home knowing I was exactly the person I was meant to be. I sat down with Ethan, watching him solve problems, make decisions, laugh. And I realized life was finally back in harmony. The phone buzzed. Work, emails, client calls. But I didn't rush, didn't panic. I smiled, watching my son, and whispered to myself, "I've earned this." And for once, the chaos didn't matter.